Hey guys, how y'all doing? I'm here to give you guys a recap on the new episode of Garo Vanishing Line, which is on episode 19. This episode just had to end up in a somewhat crazy cliffhanger, although all I know is it's just an illusion. That's a little minor spoiler to be expected, by the way. So if anything else, let's go. We have to it that our characters are just relaxing themselves in a restaurant one time, and of course, there was a scene with the bishop and the queen, I think, trying to make out their plans and make things work, etc., and following the king's orders, which is the king of El Dorado. And we have to it that after relaxing in a restaurant and figuring out some couple clues and looking into that, let's see here, this organization that made El Dorado, I believe, it seems like to me they're starting to get the idea how it grew into a very big organization after with the help of Sophie's friends, etc., around the net. Eventually, as time continues to press forward in this episode, we have to it that Sword, along with Luke and Sophie, goes to a certain location of what's been going on with trouble. And eventually they end up having to run into the Queen along with that Stanley guy who managed to kidnap Sophie in the disguise of a normal human being. And therefore we have to it that Sword and Luke gets into trouble after they got ditched on. As for Sophie, she does get away from Stanley for a bit, but eventually, after looking into some information about her brother, she found the room where it was a DNA match for her to open a room. Eventually, when she read his diary or journal, however you want to say it, she realizes that he has been working really, really hard for for his sister after their parents' passing, and therefore wanted to continue to help each other out, continue to help her out to the very end, of course. And there was a crazed up scene with having to see see the letters that Sophie has written to him, but Sophie realizes that these aren't the letters that I written to him, and eventually we have to it that she's been found and she was about to be taken somewhere where it's going to be a little troubling. We have to it that the Queen and Stanley explains that whoever enters the truth about El Dorado, they never return or something, and that's where you're going to go. But eventually Sword and Luke arrived right on time to save Sophie, and we have to it that Luke would take on the Queen while Sword goes after Sophie that Stanley is kidnapping. Of course, Sword effortlessly just shows up and defeats Stanley, and we have to it that the Bishop used Stanley as a detonating bomb to damage Sword, who managed to transform into his golden Garo armor to protect Sophie, and Sophie is later dragged by the Bishop to be thrown into the water where Sword is trying to save her, and the Bishop disappears right before Sword can hit him, and they both dive into some kind of watery pond or whatever the heck that is called, a jug. And then we have to it that system whatsoever, which looked like it's been produced by freaking a giant organ or something, start to be a little active and ends up putting Sword and Sophie into a dreamlike state where Sword is possibly seeing his sister, and with Sophie meeting her brother, where her brother says, "I've been waiting for you, Sophie," and ends off there. Next episode of the preview is called Utopia, and I don't know what's really bound to happen, but it looks like to me this dreamlike state that Sword and Sophie's in, they're going to have to break out of it eventually, but we'll have to see. So anyways, thought the episode was okay, not too bad, although it was pretty simplistic in a way for me to recap it, but yeah. As for the Dark Knight, he did make an appearance in this episode, but it looks like he's in some kind of tube or healing protocol. I don't know what the hell it is, but whatever. So until then, I'll see you guys in my next video. So I'm off for Zero, people. Have a good day, and I'll see you guys next time, alright? Peace out. Bye-bye. Toot-toot-toot!